Morning. Welcome. It's good to be together. Happy New Year and all that stuff. Hey, cool. If we haven't yet met, my name is Joel, and it's really good to be together. It's just, I don't know about you guys, but we missed not being together for a few weeks, so it does just feel really nice. Hopefully it still feels nice in a few weeks when you still want to come back, but anyway, it's really, really cool to be together. It's January, of course, right? I mean, January, and I don't know if you do this thing. When I was younger, my family did it quite often, if you like, every year. We did New Year's resolutions, and I don't know if you're a New Year's resolution kind of person. It's kind of politically, it's not really some of the thing that you do necessarily, especially some of the younger culture. There's a different feeling about it, saying like, well, what's wrong with me? Why do I have to change things anyway? You know, so there's a change in the tide, but maybe you grew up in an environment where you were a New Year's resolution kind of person. And just take a moment. There's a person next to you, whatever. If you're close to somebody, what do you think is the top New Year's resolutions? And if you're watching online, pop it on the chat. You can put what you think. What do you think are the top resolutions? So if you got any. So, according to the YouGov website, these are the resolutions for this year. I mean, this is hot off the presses. This is bang. So here are the top 5, and you probably said some of these already. The number one thing, of course, is to do more exercise. You know, lose weight, improve my diet. Save more money has jumped into the top 5 this year, you know. 44% of people said they want to save more money. It's no surprise with the current economic climate. That's like, jumped up. And then pursue a new career. Might have said something like spend more time with the family. That's in the top 10. Spend less time on social media. Reduce my alcohol intake. Those types of things. Do some renovations to my house. These are all in the top 10. And I made a resolution as well. I decided this year that in the future, I'm going to do more exercise. And I'm planning maybe 2028, 2029 to join a gym. So I'm there. I'm completed. I've done it. So yeah, anyway. But the funny thing is, you probably already know this, that the data says that as often or as regular it is to make these resolutions, it's just as common to not fulfill them, right? Strava, do you know what Strava is? You know, Strava is the sort of app, you know, for the exercising and cycling, and you can monitor. Strava actually has what they call Quitters Friday. It's the second Friday of the new year. They find that in their data, the numbers of people for the first 2 weeks of the year were doing something. By the second Friday of the year, they call it Quitters Friday because the data drops. Like, it's significant. And 70% of people don't fulfill their New Year's resolutions. 70% of people don't make it to the end of January. You might be getting an elbow on the side because there was someone in your life that knows you said something about maybe trying to do something differently, and they're reminding you that only lasted about 3 days. But anyway, could you imagine if you had a TV in your house? We all have a TV. If you have a TV, you can imagine that. Sorry. If you have a TV that only worked 30% of the time, it'd be crazy. 70% of people make these resolutions and they don't actually stick. That's like a 30% success rate. If you had a mobile phone that only turned on and only worked 30% of the time, I mean, you wouldn't keep the phone, would you? I think we should rename these, shouldn't we? These are not New Year's resolutions. They should be New Year's intentions. I intended I intended to do something. Because the definition of resolution, you probably know this, the definition of a resolution is to choose. A firm choice to do or not do something. The word resolution means a choice. It also means like the numbers of pixels, but we're not talking about that resolution. We're talking about this definition of resolution, a firm choice to do or not do something, which got me thinking. It really is about choices. Choices. It really is about making choices, making better choices, really. And we all make choices every day. You've chosen to be here, whether you're on site or online or watching this later on demand. We all make choices. You chose what time to wake up this morning. You chose what to wear. Thank you. You got dressed. You chose what to eat or not eat. You chose tea or coffee. You know, but life, we all know, is a bit different than just choosing whether we want tea or coffee. Sometimes as we get older, of course, decisions become more complex. And when you're younger, it's a bit like this. Maybe you've got people in your household, and the biggest decisions that they have to face in their life is whether they're going to watch Peppa Pig or Bluey. And like, that's the biggest decision they've got to face all day. Oh, to be young again, my word. Because as we get older, we know we have to start thinking about different things, like, what am I going to study at school? Do I need to go to university? Do I want to go to university? What subject should I do? Do I want to go out with that person? Should I stay with this person? What kind of job do I want? Should I apply for this job? Should I not apply for this job? Should I buy a car? Do I even need a car? Where should I live? Do I hope to stay at home? Do I hope to move to another town? Should I believe in Jesus? Should I belong to a church? As you get older, and as we all grow up, the weight of the decisions actually become a lot bigger than deciding whether to have tea or coffee or to watch Peppa Pig or Bluey. And you know this because there's a lot of experience in this room. You know that as we get older, our decisions become much more serious, if you like. And so I want to take the first part of the year to look at this idea of making choices. And I think we can be really practical. And if you're not a follower of Jesus yet, that's great. Thank you so much for being here, because I really believe that we've got some wisdom that's not from us, wisdom that's from God, wisdom that comes from the Bible, because God is a God who's for you, and he believes in you, and he wants to help us in life. Okay, he does not make your life perfect. If you've ever been to a church that told you your life will be perfect because you follow Jesus, they've been lying to you, probably because they want your money or they want you to be a robot. God does not want you to think that your life will be totally perfect because you follow him. But what will be true is your life will be better because you follow him. It doesn't mean your life is perfect. It doesn't mean life is easy. It doesn't mean it becomes easy, but it means he will never leave you because he is for you and with you and will walk with you. And I believe that we can learn to make better choices. And if we look at the Bible, we're going to spend some time over this next month learning how to make better choices, because I believe at the end of the day, if we make better choices, we'll have a better life. Now, you can choose to take all this information and all this advice, and that's fine, and you don't even have to be a follower of Jesus, because this information and this series will be really good for you, whether you choose to follow Jesus or not. But the heart of it is because we love you and we believe Jesus loves you and he wants to help you in life. What you do with it is up to you, of course. But better choices lead to a better life. I'm totally convinced. And you know this is true, because if you think about it, if you think about some of the dumbest things that you've done or the things that you regret the most, if you could go back in time, you would choose differently, wouldn't you? Okay? You would. You would just choose differently. We all would. There's things that we think, yeah, if I could only go back, I would not have bought that car. If we had not done certain things, we would be like, we'd make different decisions, because our biggest regrets in life are usually because of our own bad choices. And I believe this series is going to help us all learn to make better choices. And I want to tell you, the other day we were in London, which is pretty cool, and we went to a food court, which again is pretty cool. And if you've not been to like a little modern food court, so here we are in a room, little bit bigger than this. And there's stalls all along every available space. They make stalls. And there's a Thai little stall, and there's a Lebanese place, and there's a Korean place, and a Mexican place, and a Japanese place, and you could get curries, you could get burgers, you could get pizzas. There's just loads of choice, right? And it's cool. And you can get sweet things and savory things and all sorts of stuff. And we're here in this place, and we get to choose. And here's what I chose. I chose pizza. Good choice, right? Yeah. I'm such a tacky kid anyway. I just chose pizza, right? Because in my family, some of you know this, but Beth doesn't eat very much dairy. So Beth can't eat much dairy at all. So we don't have much pizza. And the other thing, 2 of my children actually think that cheese is made by demons in hell. So they think it's not only disgusting, it's ungodly. They won't even go near the stuff. Yeah, so I can tell you this. If you have children who don't like cheese, don't take them to Italy, okay? That's not really a fun place for a holiday. Anyway, so when we're out, I like to do something and I usually go for pizza because I don't really get pizza very often. And all that stretchy, gooey cheese. So I get some pizza. And I'm going to need your advice and your help this morning because I have brought a little pizza with me, a little cheese pizza. And I don't know if you like pizza. I hope you do. If you do, I like you even more. Anyway, so I got a little pizza there. What sort of toppings do you put on a pizza? What do you like on a pizza? Shout out some toppings for me. What do you go for when you get a pizza? Pepperoni. Let's see, pepperoni. Chili. Yeah, pepperoni. Yeah, whatever. I hear you saying pepperoni, but I think I'm going to go for pickled mussels instead. Let's get a few of those on there, Don't flick it. I bet you're glad you're not sitting much closer, huh? So if anybody wants to come to my house for lunch today, you are more than welcome. Now you see why my kids don't like pizza. Anyway. Yeah. I mean, what were some of the other toppings? Somebody else said something. We said pepperoni. We said anchovies, mushrooms. Yeah, whatever. I'm going to go for sauerkraut. See, that's why I got to work out more. Yeah. I work out, no. Lesson learned. Open it next time in future before you're standing in public. Look at that. Oh, I can smell that from here. Can you guys smell that? Yeah, that's nice. Sauerkraut. Oh, nice.
Question. What is sauerkraut?
Oh, fermented cabbage. Not like kimchi, also a fermented cabbage. You can make it with salt. Right, the best thing now, bit of jelly beans, yeah? Nothing better than some pickled mussels, sauerkraut, and jelly beans. That, my friends, is a pizza to die for. You might die anyway if you eat it, but we'll save a few of those for later, actually. Yeah. Now, what a gorgeous pizza, isn't it? I mean, that is delicious. Now, the thing is, that pizza probably could have been better, right? But the thing is, I didn't really want to listen to what you had to say. I mean, come on, this is my life. This is my pizza. I can do what I want. And who are you to tell me what I should do with my pizza? I mean, you don't know where I've been. You don't know what my experiences are. You don't know what sort of roads I've been on. You don't know how it's been for me. And you don't know what my parents were like. And don't even get me started on my grandparents. Don't even go there, because this is my life, and I don't really need you telling me anything to do about my life, because really I'd like to do things my own way. And I'm sure none of you have ever thought that either. I mean, if we're really honest with ourselves, when it comes to having other people's input, we don't really like it. We don't like it. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. And here's the thing. I could have made some better choices, probably. I could have made better choices, couldn't I? That would have been a better pizza. I'm not going to eat that, by the way, so if any of you want it, you can have it. Knock yourself out. And here's the first thing, the first practical thing that we can do to begin to learn to make better choices in life. And like I said, you don't even have to be a follower of Jesus. You don't even have to be accepting of this whole church stuff. But this is good for all of us. The first thing we can learn to do is listen to good advice. Because if I'd listened to good advice, things would have been a bit better. The outcome would have been quite different. Listen to good advice. Getting advice just means this: having somebody's input or help in your life for something that you're facing. That's all it means. Just getting some input, getting their encouragement, getting their help, getting their insight. Yeah? I want to tell you about a guy in the Bible. He lived a long time ago. You might have heard of him. His name is Solomon, King Solomon. He was an ancient king in Israel. And he's known for being one of the wisest people to ever live. In fact, he ruled Israel, and he's regarded as like the king that ruled in Israel's heyday. Like when he was the king, Israel reached its highest point in terms of its wealth and in terms of its industry and everything. And Solomon built the temple, and Solomon did these things. Solomon was like the guy, and for 40 years he ruled the kingdom of Israel. And he's regarded as like one of their greatest, if not the greatest king that they, ever had. And the thing is, and when you were a king back then, it's a little bit different than how politics work now. But when you were a king back then, what you said went. Yeah? So if you said it, it was law. If you said it, this is how it was going to be. If you decided something, this was the way it was going to be. And in the U.S. House of Representatives, if you've seen in the news, they've had 15 votes to try to figure out who's going to be the Speaker of the House. 15 times. Wrangling, compromising, trying to figure out who's going to do this, conceding here, conceding there. You know, there's no discussion in Parliament. There's no argument about how we're going to do things. If you were the king, you would say, this is what I say. This is what it is. And what you said became law. You ruled. You were the ruler. He was the king. So it's like, wow, okay, that's Solomon. That's the way it was at the time. And if anybody would have thought, I don't need anybody else's advice, it would have been him. Right? He didn't need anyone else's advice. But Solomon had this experience, and it happened at the beginning of his reign. It started out when he was just becoming king. It's in 1 Kings, and it's chapter 3. And Kings is a book in the collection of books, which is the Bible. And Kings is like a history of the kings. That's why it's called Kings. So we learn about the various kings who were the kings at the time. So there you go. Little clue in the name, right? Makes it easy. In 1 Kings chapter 3, there's this experience. And Solomon has a dream. And God comes to him in his dream, and he says to him, ask me anything that you would want. Ask me for anything. It says that David was following in his father's footsteps. Solomon was following in his father's footsteps. His father was King David, the guy with the stone and the sling and a giant killer. That was his dad. And Solomon was his 10th born. And it says he followed in his father's footsteps. And he followed God. He loved God. And he was also following in David's footsteps. So he was a good and righteous king. And God says to him, what would you like? And if just think for a moment. If God actually said to you, I'm going to give you anything, what would you like? You know, we probably got a mortgage to be paid off. We'd probably like our bank balance to have a few more zeros behind it. Maybe we'd like a new car. Maybe we'd like health in our family. If God actually said to you, I'll give you anything. Think about the stuff that you'd get. Most of us, we think stuff when God talks to us like this, right? Stuff on stuff. Yet Solomon says this. He says this to God. He says, give me a mind. Basically, give your servant an understanding mind to govern your people, so that I may discern between good and evil. God's asking him, what would you like? Anything you can have. And Solomon says, this is what I need. I need wisdom to be able to make better choices, so I can discern between good and evil. Man, if you could discern between good and evil in some of the situations in your life, situations between worse or better or best, if you had the ability to discern sometimes, don't you think that would have been a really helpful thing to guide you in life? And God says to Solomon, he basically says to him, you know what you've asked is great, and I'm really pleased by what you've asked me. And so what he does then, it says, carries on, and it says in verse 12, it says this, I will do now for you what you have asked. I will give you a wise and discerning mind, so that none like you who has ever been before, and none like you will rise after. Solomon is regarded as one of the wisest people to ever live. He wrote books on wisdom. There's a book in the Bible called Proverbs that he wrote, Ecclesiastes that he wrote, Song of Solomon that he wrote. There's books. It says that people traveled from far and wide just to see him and to hear him and understand and get wisdom from him. And here he is, the wisest person that's ever lived. And he didn't need advice from anybody because he was a king. He didn't need to have asked for that. And here's what he gives us as an instruction for life. He writes this in the book of Proverbs, and he says, get all the advice and instructions you can so you can be wise for the rest of your life. Get all the advice and instruction you can so you will be wise the rest of your life. Better choices make for a better life. Better choices make for a better life. Better choices make for a better life. If the instruction is listen to advice, though, then it gets me thinking, and I think, well, who should we listen to? Who should we listen to then? I got a couple suggestions about how we understand who we speak to. And I would suggest, and I'd encourage you, no matter what age you are, whether you're young, we are blessed to have our teenagers in here this morning, so really pleased about that. And you guys obviously want to have me over for pizza, so whatever age you are, here's some really helpful filters for who to speak to. You want to get advice from people who are wise, and get advice from people who love you. And here's what I mean by that. So how do you know who's wise, or how do you know if someone is wise? Having wisdom is doing the right thing even when it's hard. People who make wise choices make tough choices. People who are wise make difficult choices even though it's not an easy decision. They make tough choices. That's someone who can tell that they're wise. They also should have more experience than you. And they can let you know what to do or not to do. Because they've probably walked that road before. They might have the scars to prove it. They've got the life experience, or there could be they don't have to be older or younger, but in a situation or in a circumstance that you're looking at, in that circumstance, they have more experience than you. Now, if you're at school and you're studying and you need to get better in your maths, do you speak to somebody who's not very good with numbers? Probably not. You need advice on relationships. Do you speak to your friends, or do you speak to people who have a track record of having healthy relationships? You need some input on your work environment or work setting, and do you speak to somebody who goes from job to job and doesn't really have a good reputation at work? You see, you got to pick the people that you listen to for the situation that you're needing advice for. We accept it when it's a skill. So, for example, I could speak to Nick and learn about the bass because he's pretty darn amazing on the bass. I probably wouldn't speak to Nick and ask him how to do cross-stitching. You might be good at that too, I don't know. So someone has an experience in the area that you need some wisdom in. That they've been there, they've done that, they've walked that road. And they've got more input and more. In fact, you choose somebody who's wise, who's got a track record of showing that they've lived their life in such a way that they have actually lived some of this stuff and they've experienced some of this stuff. When we all know this, we're looking at the possibility of a building, aren't we? We're looking at the possibility of St. Michael's, And not only have we as trustees spoken and sought advice with one another, we've spoken to 2 structural engineers, we've had 2 architects in, spoken to a financial advisor, I've spoken to 6 Anglican ministers, I've spoken to someone regarding grants, I've spoken already to someone who deals with finances, I've spoken to 2 people who work at a church in London that they worked on a project of a derelict building in London. Why am I telling you that? Because they all have more advice and experience in that area, and that's what we need advice and experience in. And I want to get all the advice that we can. Because if we make better choices at the beginning, it'll go better for us in the future. Because better choices make for a better life. Better choices make for a better life. Maybe you've got some situations in your life and you think, oh, actually, yeah, if I'd have listened to somebody or if I'd have asked for somebody's input, I might have been able to swerve some of those potholes that I hit in the road. I just might have been able to swerve some of that stuff. So the second thing, if someone who's wise and someone who loves you. How do you know if someone really loves you? I think simply you know that they're for you more than they want something from you. When somebody really loves you, they're for you more than they want something from you. Now, maybe there's someone in your life you think, oh yeah, and if someone sort of just loves you, but they just seem to only want something from you, it's probably not really love, it's just a feeling. Someone who really loves you wants something for you. They love you so much that they want the best for you, that they'll even tell you something that might hurt. Because if they really love you, they'll tell you what you need to hear more than what you want to hear. If they really love you, they'll tell you things that might sting. But they're not doing it because they think you're rubbish and you're horrible. If they really love you, they're for you. They're telling you these things because they want to see you grow. They want to see you come around that thing. They want to see you make it out of this situation. Whatever you're experiencing, if they really love you, their heart is for you. Their heart is for you so much that they're going to risk everything to tell you something, even though they know it might be difficult or painful to accept. Because they tell you what you need to hear more than what you want to hear. But they do it in such a way that they don't want to destroy you because they're for you. I hope that makes sense. So we listen to people who are wise, people who've got more experience than us, people who learn how to make some tough choices. We listen to people who love us, the ones that are for us. And I just want to make this clear, especially for our young people. The most popular people on social media doesn't necessarily mean they're the most wise or the most loving. Anybody know who Andrew Tate is? Just because you got lots of money, lots of followers, doesn't mean you're a very wise person, and doesn't mean you're actually very loving. If you don't know who it is, just Google it. So popularity doesn't equal wisdom. Popularity doesn't equal love. Popularity is just popular. You're popular. That's all you are. It doesn't mean that you're wise. You know someone loves you when they really, really care about you. Yeah? And here's what it looks like. They tell you things that you need to hear. Like, for example, you might be having a situation where you're like, I just really want to get on top of my finances, and I really want to be able to have more control of my finances. And then they say to you, yes, but you go to McDonald's 4 times a week. Or it's like, come on, you have to make some decisions. Or you say, I need some advice, in the workplace, and you come and instead of your friends sitting there and listening to your pity party and hearing how you go from job to job and job to job and don't seem to be able to hold down a job, your friend who is wise and loving says to you, there's a few things about your personality and your timekeeping that means it's very difficult to work with you. And maybe that's why you're going from job to job to job to job to job. See, that's a friend who's wise and loving. They give us stuff that even though it's painful. Now, if you're in a relationship or if you have the joy and delight of being married for over 2 decades and counting, there's been plenty of opportunities for me to give my wife reason to tell me things that actually I needed to hear, but I didn't really want to hear. And if I was 14 years old again, I would have rolled my eyes and gone. But now that I'm old and mature, all I do is just defend myself and justify my actions. I'm sure no one has any idea what I'm talking about. But someone who really loves you does give us information and advice that we would and should put into practice. You can trust the wounds of a friend. And I want to encourage us as we do this series for this next month that we really just lean into some practical areas about learning how to make better choices. And when we listen to advice, this is good advice. Really listen. Like, take note. Really listen. Really, really listen. And if I'd listened to you earlier, I definitely would have had a much better pizza. Better choices make for a better life. Plain and simple. Better choices make for a better life. And you might be facing something in your life this morning or this season. You might be facing something that's really big. It's not like tea or coffee or Peppa Pig and Bluey. It's a big thing. You might be facing something really big. I encourage you, seek out some people who are wise and seek out some people who are loving and get some advice. Maybe for our young people, you could speak to people within our small groups, or if you guys are in fused groups, share something in your fused groups and get input from people. Seek all the advice you can. Maybe there's a situation that's more professional and you need to get some professional help. Let's do it. Let's do it. And we're going to close this morning. We left all this stuff up because we're going to close with a song this morning as well. And the song talks about how I will choose to make room. And as we wrap up this morning, I just want to make an opportunity for us at the start of the year, after learning how to make decisions, I just want to encourage us all, that as we begin to move forward, we begin to recognize that the biggest and best decision of our lives is choosing to make room for Jesus. I said at the beginning, there's some good advice here and you can take it or leave it, really. And maybe you're not a follower of Jesus yet, but I'd encourage you to really consider becoming a follower of Jesus. And for those of us who are followers of Jesus, sometimes we need to just remind ourselves, you know what? I choose to make room in my life for you. I'm going to pray now and then we'll go into the music. Heavenly Father, God, thank you so much for who you are, your goodness, the things that you have done in our lives. Thank you. We're so incredibly grateful. I thank you for the ways that you are for us, that you help us. God, you give us good advice. And I thank you for the way that you draw all of us closer to you. God, I ask that you would help us make better choices in life. And we start today by just saying, you know what? I'm going to make room for you. I pray for everyone here, for whatever they're facing, that you would be with them and strengthen them. And in your name we pray. Amen.